Hey, who's up for a road trip? This is Forest County Outback number 7, the branch. So today we're gonna head across the Kellerville Bridge out the branch road, and we are gonna check out some big rocks, some oil field stuff, the home of the Indian doctor, a sawmill site, a coal mine, and we are gonna solve one of the enduring mysteries of Forest County, which is who is the dead guy at Deadman Corners and the first ever murder trial in Forest County history. So you got to stick around for that. So I got some driving tunes picked out. So we're going to fire up the motor, pop some Molly Hatchet in the old 8-track, and if you're under 55 you'll have to Google that one. And let's get rolling. So this is an area called Lookout Rocks. People were not real original with their names, I guess, sometimes. But the rocks are pretty cool. So before this grew up here in the last 20 years, you used to be able to see right up the valley of the branch. But I understand that back in Kellerville heyday, when Teddy Collins was running things, he didn't allow alcohol in town. And there was major bootlegger operations outside of town. And from what I can understand, this was like a major party spot here for people back then. So a big field of rocks over here. Can't see them too well right now, but yeah, pretty cool if you like big rocks. We got a relic of the oil industry here. This old wooden stock tank. Crude oil is the best preservative there is. Of course, it's also if you use it for that on your building, it's also a fire hazard. Something to keep in mind. So we got a pump shack down here we're gonna go check out. So you got an old pump shack. First saw this in 1975 and it was abandoned then. But it's what they called central power. They had one engine and they had rods that went out from here and they could pump several wells off of one engine. So you can see that eccentric on top. You have the rods going out there. Pump a whole bunch of different jacks. There's base to the engine. A lot of times they were, usually they were natural gas, single cylinder. They called them one-lungs. They had a very distinctive sound. And this was made in, let's see, producers, something company, and it was made in Franklin, Pennsylvania. Oh, Producer Supply Company. Okay, cool. And we have a couple more recent relics. Ham beer and Lucky Streak beer. Oh, boy, that sounds nasty. I'd say anybody drinking that has a problem. See a lot of these scattered around the woods. Okay, we're walking back the road to look at the farm of the Indian doctor, Charles Harris. And tell you a little more about him when we get there. Okay, this is the farm of Charles Harris, the Indian doctor. He was a Seneca from Cattaraugus County, New York, and he served as a surgeon for the Union Army in the Civil War. And after the Civil War, he came here to homestead this farm and lived here the rest of his life. And as you'll see later on, he had a very extensive orchard here, which he was well known for. So this is the doc's orchard, or part of it. And he's buried back this trail here. He passed away in 1914 and requested that he be buried under a chestnut tree here. So this is the doctor's grave, and there's actually 5 graves here. Both of his wives are supposed to be here, and then the one on the end is a plaque on it that says P.D. Volk, a bark peeler, and I'd like to know the story behind that man. But the doc lived here. He ran what was described as a hospital and sanitarium. He would take in people who were ill, and he practiced a form of what was then modern medicine, natural medicine, herbalism, spiritualism. Sounds like kind of a New Age kind of guy. Okay, we're at site of Clough's Mills. Now, Levi Clough was a businessman from Union City. He had a furniture and chair factory up there, but he also had some fairly extensive timber holdings in Forest County. And he established a mill here in 1889. And he built a railroad out here. It started on the Pittsburgh and Western at McCrae Siding, went across Beaver Meadows, past Seldom Seen Corner, and came out here, right here to the mill. Okay, so unlike a lot of other logging railroads, the grades here were pretty gentle. So they were able to, they didn't need a geared locomotive, they were able to use a rod locomotive, and they bought a new 244 Brooks rod locomotive to handle the log train and take the lumber out. And then eventually they started passenger service out here, believe it or not, and they bought a used locomotive from Pittsburgh and Western. That was also a rod locomotive, and the Brooks became the passenger, ran the passenger train. So we're going to go up here and take a look at the site of the mill, and I'm not sure if this was water powered or steam, so we got to look around, see if we can find a boiler house or not. So that'll tell us a lot. Okay, so that is the dam for the log pond, and then over here to the left are some remains of the mill. There's some big stones here, and there's some bolts where machinery was mounted. So the area we're standing in here was, we probably would have been in the mill at that point. And there's a few cut stones there, but yeah. You can see the beavers have been at work here. They haven't found anything resembling a boiler, so we're going to assume that this was a water-powered mill. And if you look at the size of the stream, you wonder how could that power a sawmill. So probably what was going on was, at that time they didn't have lighting, adequate lighting to work at night. So they would just run during the day, draw the pond down, and then it would recharge overnight. Okay, this is a stone line channel, and what I think is going on here is this was where water came out of the dam, and it probably operated a water turbine. Okay, so we are above the log pond, and over here to the right this is where the logging railroad came in. It went down to Little Salmon. They brought logs up out of here, brought them up here, rolled them into the pond. And then over here is a large square excavation. Now, we have no photos of this operation, so you know what this was, we don't know. But it's, you know, it's some kind of cellar, and there's an entranceway over there to the right. But what this building would have been, we don't know. And you may have noticed we're doing some different stuff today. I have a cameraman, so I think that seems to be working out so far. But that's pretty much Closs Mills. There are some other foundations around here, and there's supposed to be another foundation along the stream. Maybe we're going to take a quick jog down there and see if we can find it. But there are some foundations out beyond the like where the railroad grade came from, McRae siding. And those are mostly visible during the winter when you got a little dusting of snow. So I don't know if we can find them now, but we'll take a look, and if we find them, we'll film them. If not, we won't. So we're downstream from the mill, and there's a very large building over here. A cut stone foundation. So we can get over there and take a closer look at it. This building is probably about 50 feet long. What it could have been, who knows? Yeah, I'm gonna have to do some research on this, see if we can figure out what was going on here. Now this Clough Mills operated, like I said, they built it in 1889. It operated till 1896. Clough had extensive timber holdings down in the Branch Valley, and in 96 he moved his operation down there, built a larger mill and a pretty good sized town there, and we'll be paying that a visit at a later date. Okay, the only explanation we can come up with at this point is that this may have been a stable for the oxen or draft horses that they used in the logging. You know, it looks like the backside of a barn. That's the only way to describe it. So I guess that's it for Clough Mills, unless we stumble upon something else. Now this area here, just off the road, I was told was the site of a coal mine. It was just a surface seam, they didn't tunnel. So it's just basically a mini strip mine, and that was being worked about the same time as the sawmill just up the road was in operation. Forest County had several seams of surface coal. Generally they were pretty poor quality, and it was never a very big industry. Okay, well, the coal mine's a wash. The area's been logged over, and we don't feel like wading through this just to see a bunch of dug up ground. So anyhow, yeah, this was a coal mine at one time. So on to the finale that everybody's been waiting for. Deadman Corners. Okay, everybody, this is the finale of the road trip, the stop you've all been waiting for, unless you scrolled ahead. Who is the Deadman at Deadman Corners? So I'm going to and how did he get here? So I'm going to debunk some myths that's been going around Forest County about this. One was that this person was a peddler from New York City who was robbed and murdered here. Not true. The other, that he had robbed the bank in Marionville. This is where the posse caught him and administered some street justice. Also not true. And one that I had perpetrated because I thought the source was reliable is that he was a pipeline walker and was struck by lightning. Not true. This story goes back to 1871. This man's name was Matthew Turner. He was a woodsman and he was a redhead, and that's important to the story. Now, he lived in Foxburg, which what we now know is Lynch, and he had been at the Porter farm, which is a few miles back the road where Abraxas is now. He left the Porter farm, headed home on September 28th, and never showed up. So after a few days, his friends began searching for him, and they found him here. There was a coroner's inquest that was performed at this site, and the verdict was he was murdered, shot. He died of a shotgun blast to the head and neck, and robbery was not the motive. His rifle and hatchet and other personal items were still here, and the body was in bad shape. That's why they just buried him here. So suspicion centered on a guy named William Barnhart, who was been described as having terrorized the neighborhood for several years. They described him as being insane, and he hated redheads. So the trial took place on December 28th, 1878, and right, 878? No, 71. Sorry, 1871. And it took the jury 15 minutes to return a guilty verdict by reason of insanity. Barnhart's mother and sister testified that he had not displayed any abnormal behavior until he returned from the Civil War. And his diary stated that red-haired people were evil and they all needed to be killed. Today, we would probably recognize this as this man is suffering from post-traumatic stress. He was sent to the insane asylum at Dixmont, and he attacked a red-haired attendant there. Later, he was transferred to Warren State Hospital when it opened up, and he passed away there in 1911 at the age of 70. So that is the story of Deadman Corners. So we hope you liked the video. If you do, hit the like button, subscribe, comments, and that's it. We'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.